When people think of World War II, they often picture tanks rolling across Europe or planes in the skies over Britain. But some of the harshest lessons in survival were not learned on the battlefields of Europe. They were discovered deep in the sweltering jungles and scattered islands of the Pacific. Soldiers and local islanders had to fight against more than just bullets. Heat, humidity, disease, and scarce resources turned every day into a battle to stay alive. Out of that struggle came resourceful, often forgotten survival tricks that carried men through impossible conditions. And the best part is many of these methods can still be applied today, whether for outdoor expeditions, prepping, or simply appreciating the ingenuity of the past. Soldiers learned to find fresh water where none seemed available. In the Pacific, dehydration was as deadly as enemy fire. Soldiers learned to collect rainwater using nothing more than ponchos stretched between trees or helmets propped up overnight. When rain was scarce, they dug shallow pits near the shore, where fresh water seeped up from beneath the sand, separated from seawater by natural layers. Islanders also taught them to cut into thick green bamboo or certain palm stems where fresh water collected naturally. A single section of green bamboo could provide nearly a litre of clean water, a lifesaver in the heat. Coconuts were more than just food. The coconut was a complete survival package. The water inside young coconuts was sterile and safe to drink, even used at times in place of intravenous fluids for wounded soldiers. The white meat provided essential fats and calories, while the husk fibres became tinder for fire starting. Soldiers even sharpened the hard shells into spoons, cups, or makeshift scoops. Knowing how to use every part of a coconut turned it into a multi-tool of the tropics. For modern survivalists, it's a reminder to always look at a resource from every angle. One item can serve multiple roles if used wisely. Improvised shelters protected against relentless rain. The constant tropical downpours soaked gear and sapped morale. Soldiers often relied on simple lean-tos covered with palm fronds or banana leaves, layered thick enough to shed water. Local islanders showed them how to angle shelters so that rain ran off rather than pooling. The large leaves acted like shingles, and when overlapped correctly, they could keep a small group dry through storms. The lesson was clear. Survival shelter in the tropics was not about building walls, but about managing water flow and staying off the wet ground. Fire was kept alive despite monsoon conditions. Starting a fire in a jungle soaked by rain seemed impossible, but the trick was to split wood and use the dry core hidden beneath wet bark. Shaving thin curls with knives or bayonets gave soldiers dry tinder. Dried coconut husks, when shredded, caught sparks quickly, even in damp air. Some carried small tins of charred cloth as emergency tinder. Fire meant more than warmth. It sterilized water, kept insects at bay, and lifted morale. For anyone practicing survival today, the principle holds: know which materials in your environment stay dry on the inside, even when the world outside is soaked. Natural insect repellents kept disease at bay. Mosquitoes carrying malaria and dengue were as dangerous as enemy patrols. To cope, men turned to natural repellents. Crushed leaves from citronella-like plants were rubbed on skin to deter insects. Some units even smeared mud or ash over exposed arms and legs, creating a physical barrier. Islanders showed them how smoke from certain green woods drove mosquitoes away when burned. Without these tricks, many soldiers would have succumbed long before seeing combat. Navigation came from the stars and the sea. Maps and compasses were not always available in dense jungle or when stranded at sea. Islanders taught Allied troops to read the position of stars, the flow of ocean currents, and even bird flight patterns to orient themselves. Certain seabirds, for example, never flew far from land, giving clues about direction. Soldiers who adopted these skills managed to move between islands or signal rescue, while those without them often became hopelessly lost. Food was gathered from overlooked sources. Insects, small crabs, and even sago grubs became valuable protein sources. Soldiers who overcame their hesitation survived when rations ran out. Edible roots and shoots, guided by islander knowledge, supplemented their diets. One well-documented practice was roasting taro roots wrapped in banana leaves, which provided both energy and hydration. For modern survivalists, it shows that food security in extreme environments often means broadening one's definition of edible. Camouflage and concealment borrowed from island life. Survival in the Pacific wasn't just about nature, it was about avoiding detection. Soldiers learned from locals how to blend into the jungle using mud, charcoal and woven palm fronds to break up outlines. Even equipment was wrapped in leaves to prevent metallic glints. Staying hidden not only protected them from enemies but also allowed safe hunting and foraging without attracting attention. Salt and preservation meant survival in the long term. One of the greatest threats in the tropics was food spoilage. Meat and fish rotted quickly in the heat, leading to illness. Islanders showed soldiers how to preserve fish by packing it in salt or drying it on racks over smoky fires. This allowed protein to last days instead of hours. For soldiers stranded or cut off from supply lines, mastering food preservation meant the difference between hunger and health. The Pacific War tested human endurance against one of the harshest environments on Earth. The men who survived did so not only through courage, but through resourcefulness, learning from both necessity and the wisdom of local island communities. These 9 forgotten survival tricks remind us that knowledge can mean the difference between life and death, even more than weapons or supplies. If you found these insights valuable, make sure to subscribe to In the Beginning for more deep dives into the untold sides of history. Share this with fellow history enthusiasts and survival-minded friends because the lessons of the past still have the power to guide us today.